Joining me now for more analysis is NewsNation political contributor and Republican strategist Denise Gitsham. Denise, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. I wanted to ask you first here. President Trump is saying America would, quote, run Venezuela for now, but the president has always said America first. How does running Venezuela fit into an American first agenda?
Well, I think the person that made the best case for that is not only the former president, President Obama, who declared that that Venezuela was a national security threat and first imposed sanctions, but also your past guest, Gordon Chang, who said that basically Venezuela has been a proxy for China. Has a listening post for China. There are Chinese boots on the ground for their military. Look, Venezuela is in the Western Hemisphere, and where it's positioned puts any enemy that's in that country in direct line of attack to America. And so what could be more America first than ensuring that our enemies do not have a foothold on any nation and do not control in any way any nation that actually poses a threat to our future security?
Well, several lawmakers, though, they're coming from both sides of the aisle saying that this attack, really uses those taxpayer dollars for this operation. There was Marjorie Taylor Greene calling out that taxpayer dollars are being consistently funded to foreign causes while Americans are facing increasing costs of living, housing, and health care. Do you think this will be a concern for the Trump administration when many Americans are struggling to afford things?
Well, I don't think you can really put a price on freedom. What good are all of our taxpayer dollars if we have a Chinese invasion or if we're no longer secure in our own nation? I mean, I think this is not just a Republican right-left issue, Democrat issue. This is a populist issue where there are isolationists in both parties, including mine, that talk about, somehow we're going to avoid any sort of international entanglement and that'll keep us safe. Nothing could be further from the truth. And all you have to do is study history to understand that that's exactly what led us into World War II, World War I. It is that notion that putting your head in the sand can somehow help you avoid future entanglement. And in fact, that's not how the world works. Again, if you know your history, and if you don't know your history, actually, you're bound to repeat it. And if you do, you can take the necessary steps to protect the homeland, which is exactly what President Trump has done. And zero efforts have been made by Democrats or any prior administrations other than sort of verbal, anti-Venezuelan, remarks or sanctions, this weak sauce that led to absolutely nothing to actually secure our nation from future threats.
I wanted to ask you about this, too. Democrats, they're raising money after those strikes in Venezuela. DNC Chair Ken Martin sent this out, writing, quote, Congress has war powers, but Republican cowards are hiding under their desks while Trump orders an unauthorized attack against Venezuela. The most important thing we can do right now is work to elect more Democrats who will check this administration's power and prevent more disaster. Democrats argue Congress has war powers. So did President Trump act within constitutional bounds?
Well, earlier, Chairman Crawford, who's the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, was on with Blake on the Hill, and he said that there actually isn't a requirement that any members of Congress are informed of this sort of a military action before, it's only after. And so I'm not a specialist in that. I had to take the chairman of the Intelligence Committee at his word. But I just think that one thing you can be sure of is as these Democrats are going to campaign on this issue, they are once again on the side of those who oppose America. I think that that's the 30,000-foot issue. President Trump is brilliant at positioning Democrats on the wrong side of 80-20 issues. There's nobody, not even Democrats, have been for Maduro or propping up this regime. And now that the regime is finally toppled and President Trump has followed through on all of the things that Democrats have threatened for so long and done nothing about, I can guarantee you that not a penny is going to come from any of the Venezuelan folks that are in America who are so grateful that President Trump has finally taken action to end this brutal regime that has been condemned by both sides of the aisle, but only President Trump had the gumption to follow through on his threats to end that regime and its reign of terror.
Are you concerned what kind of reaction the U.S. may face, whether it comes from some of our adversaries? We were talking earlier about China, Russia, potentially Iran. Or do you think this is, we got in, we got out, there should be no repercussions?
I think they should be quaking in their boots. And that's what President Trump was very clearly relaying in all of his comments, as was the Joint Chiefs Chairman, as was Secretary of State Rubio and Hegseth. Look, the precision with which our military executed this was indisputably like first class. There's no military in the world that can do what we did in supporting this effort, this law enforcement effort. And so any leader who thinks they're beyond the reach of our military now knows that they are not. And I think that signals to the entire world, anyone who wants to oppose us, that we aren't afraid to follow through on our actions. At least this president isn't. I'm not sure what the future presidents might hold, but as long as this president is in the Oval Office, there will be repercussions for the things that they do that come against freedom and America. And I think that that statement, that is the takeaway from all of this, is if you're looking at Venezuela as an isolated incident or just because it's about Maduro, or even for the president's reasoning, which is it's against narco trafficking, those are all supporting reasons. But this was actually a signaling to Beijing, Russia, and Iran, who supported Venezuela against America by getting that foothold in the Western Hemisphere that we had to kick out. Because the reality is that we are dealing with a Cold War mentality, whether Democrats want to accept it or not. And so we have to address those proactively, or we will be dealing with real threats on our own homeland.
How long do you think U.S. troops could potentially be on the ground there, as the president has floated or not ruled out the possibility of U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela?
I think it would be irresponsible for us not to be there long enough to ensure that there's a peaceful transition to new leadership that's stable. I don't think that it's going to be something that's going to require a lot of military action. I mean, we didn't lose a single troop in the execution of this extraction of Maduro and his wife. And so I don't see that there's going to be some sort of organized military resistance unless it comes from our adversaries that are there, from the Chinese military or maybe Russian troops if they're there as well. I don't see any way that we're going to have to deal with blood loss or anything that's going to lives lost on American military's part. So I just think that we need to focus on ensuring that we do the responsible thing, which is now that we've decapitated the snake, we need to make sure that we have the right people in that are going to help protect American interests moving forward, because that's truly American first, is ensuring that we have American interests at the forefront of, and that ends up in peace as well, at the forefront of every decision that we make moving forward must be America first.
Denise, thank you so much. Good to see you as always. I'll see you back in Washington.
Great to see you, Kelly. Thank you.